What's going on, folks? My name's Josh, you can call me Anoriand, and today I'm coming at you with a review of Front Mission 3 Remake by Forever Entertainment. To start with the usual disclosures, this game was provided digitally to me by Forever Entertainment for the purpose of a review, but no other compensation was received, and all thoughts are my own. Additionally, the code provided was for the Switch version of the game, with all footage having been captured on a Switch 2, though I have tested on both consoles and I'll provide thoughts for both. With that all out of the way, let's hop in. The Front Mission series from Squaresoft, now Square Enix, dates back to the Super Famicom in 1995. The series has spanned 15 games, 7 of them in what are considered the mainline, and in general the series tends to be about people in the near future piloting giant armed robots known as Wanzers in conflicts that range from national to global, usually in a tactical RPG backdrop. Front Mission 3 was the first game in the series to be localized and released in the West, way back in 2000, and is often considered one of the better games in the series, but it's only been available outside of Japan via the original PS1 release and on a re-release as a PS1 Classic digitally on the PlayStation Network, available to buy on PS3 and PSP. While Square does still own the series, Forever Entertainment handled this remake as they did with the Front Mission First Remake released in 2022 and Front Mission 2 Remake in 2024. But how did they do with this one? Well, for starters, I feel like the people who are most likely to check out this remake and this review are familiar with those other two remakes and the spotty history they have. So let me just address the elephant in the room right from the beginning. The original release of both Front Mission First Remake and Front Mission 2 Remake by Forever were not great, and they had multiple flaws in terms of presentation as well as stability. I actually got a key and streamed Front Mission 2 Remake back when it released, and while I enjoyed it, it certainly had its issues, presentation-wise. These are just facts. That being said, if you own either of those remakes, do me a favor, go back and try and play either one today, and tell me how you feel about them now. Because if you didn't know, Forever Entertainment has patched both of those games post-launch to an absurd degree, and they run and play much better and smoother, giving you the feeling that you probably wanted originally, and they're now absolutely worth the time and effort of a playthrough if you have the chance. I say all that to say it's clear that Forever Entertainment took the time and lessons from the last two remakes to get things right originally this time, because Front Mission 3 Remake, from the first moments I played it, feels like Front Mission 3. I got this game back in 2000, only a few months after it came out. It came out in March of 2000, my birthday was in May, and I got it as a birthday gift. And it's been one of my favorite tactical RPGs ever since. So getting to see it done justice does my heart good. I promise you, I came in here with an agenda, folks, so I'm coming in biased. Now, they've mostly just cleaned up the dialogue for the translation with updates on things like the Zenith Rev being the name of the main Wanzer that you know of instead of the Zenislev. But the translation is still accurate to what it was, and the characters definitely all still feel the same. The graphical presentation feels right, with some Wanzers getting a bit of a glow up, while iconic designs like the Kassel or the Jinyo are still immediately noticeable. The hits clearly have weight and heft to them and reverberate the way you like, emphasized further with the rumble feedback, and overall it just feels right. Like, I don't have another word for it. It feels right. It feels like they wanted to stay true to the original game without changing too many things. And on that note, I wanted to applaud them right out the gate on this review because I think it was the single biggest cloud hanging over it. Now, for those of you who have not played Front Mission 3, the story revolves around Kazuki Takamura and his best friend Ryogo Kusama, two young Wanzer pilots caught in a huge international scandal playing out in fictional Southeastern Asian countries, the Oceania Cooperative Union, or OCU, and the Dahanzhong, or DHZ, and the search and attempt to prevent the usage of a new developed super bomb known only as Midas. The thing about the story of Front Mission 3 is this is already where I have to say, and here's where things are up to you. Because one of the most iconic things about this game is at the very, very beginning of the game, you are giving an innocuous choice. Kazuki can go hang out with Ryogo, or he can choose not to and stay home, meeting up with him later. If you choose the former, you play the USN scenario, revolving around the third major character, scientist Emma Klamsky. If you choose the latter, you instead play through the DHZ scenario, and the third major focus character instead is Kazuki's own sister, Alyssa Takamura. While Kazuki and Ryogo are in both scenarios, the storylines diverge wildly. You recruit teams of up to 8 total that are otherwise entirely different from those two. Sometimes your enemies become allies, sometimes allies become enemies, and things play out fully differently. Though there are some locations that are shared in both. This also isn't a small amount of difference. Emma's story is a little bit longer at 69 missions, nice, but Alyssa's is still a hefty 60, with possible route splits during each campaign providing A and B paths with different maps, and in the case of one route split, 2 entirely different recruits you can get on one of the routes. It is a hefty game with plenty of content, so you will get your money's worth. And the story is great, and also, in my opinion, very, very relevant to the modern day. But the battles aren't necessarily like jumping into Gronder Field in Fire Emblem Three Houses if you're worried about having 3,000 hours of content in front of you. Front Mission 3 limits you to 4 characters in a map at a time, and you're unlikely to face more than 5 total enemies in a map, maybe 6, unless some of them are weaker units like tanks or helicopters or things like that, so battles don't tend to drag on. It's a great game to dive headlong into, yes, but the nature of the design also makes it excellent for bite-sized portions, especially on the Switch, spending 15 minutes doing a map and then saving if you have to move on. There is plenty to do here, but it isn't overbearing. It is just enough to give you a large meal without forcing you to take it in all at once, which is realistically the sweet spot of where a tactical RPG should be. In terms of presentation, I like the graphical updates of the game, and I feel like the remake gives just enough new look and polish to feel correct, while still feeling true to the original, but that's definitely going to be a personal preference. If you like what you're seeing, though, you'll be good. Point blank. The music gives you the option to either play the original soundtrack untouched or a modern mix of anything. Now, I love the original soundtrack. I've played this game many times in my life, and several of the tunes in it are earworms for me, so I can tell you right now, whatever you've been listening to underneath this video are some of my favorite tracks from the game. But I found myself playing with the modern mix basically the entire time. Like, it feels like it modernizes it just enough while still being the original soundtrack I love. So it's a best of both worlds for me, being new while still feeling familiar. In terms of performance, I never had an issue with either the Switch or the Switch 2. I will acknowledge the load times are a tick faster on the Switch 2, but they're not slow on the Switch, so it's hardly even noticeable. You will be just fine getting this on a Switch if you didn't get your hands on the Switch 2. Just know that if you did, it will load even faster, so that's just a nice thing to have. I will say, especially if you've played the original, you will notice how much faster you get in and out of combat compared to the original, but that's because if you haven't played the original for a while, let me remind you, it can take a minute to actually get zoomed in on a combat scene, get the attack, wait for the enemy to reposition, let them attack. It's a whole thing, and they definitely sped it up enough that it feels snappy and fast without getting rid of the feeling of weight behind all of your actions. Overall, I'm so pleased with this remake. Front Mission 3 is a game I've replayed many times in my life and plan to replay many more, and I'll be replaying them in this remake. I know the secrets of the game's internet that gives lore and backstory, and they're all still faithfully there. I know the music and the tunes, and I can still bounce to them. I know these characters in this story, and I've loved reliving them, and I'm so glad I have this for this flight to Vegas I have for MagicCon as of the time I'm recording myself saying this. Everything about this package makes me happy. There are some quality of life improvements I would have liked, I'll be honest. I would have loved if they included difficulty options for players so you could increase both the replayability and the accessibility. But the package here gave me back an old friend and made him look great. So ultimately I can't complain, it's just, I wish I would have gotten more, but what I got here is great and it's worth it. Front Mission 3 Remake gets an 8 out of 10. They set out on a mission, and they achieved it. And to be honest, I genuinely hope the level of work seen here is successful, and it results in them getting to give this level of attention to Front Mission 4, and hey, maybe even bring Front Mission 5 over to the West officially for the first time. Thank you all so very much for watching. My name's Josh, you can call me Anoriand, and until next time, I'll catch you later. Alright. Hey, thanks for checking out the review. If you like what you saw, I do reviews and stuff here. If you like the vibes, but don't necessarily just want reviews, hey, I also live stream games, I do challenge runs, I do Magic the Gathering content, and lots more. Feel free to hit subscribe, give a like, drop a comment, all the usual mumbo jumbo. Check the link in the description if you want to join the Discord and, like, I don't know, follow. I guess, man, I don't know. It's YouTube. You gotta do the thing. You gotta say like, subscribe, and follow, and you know the drill. Do the things, please. Maybe I don't know. I'm not your boss, but like, please, you just please. Okay, thanks.